All right, everybody, welcome back. It is another edition of the TriStateFootball.com Monday night recap show. This time on Tuesday, it's a Tuesday night edition. I had some stuff to take care of, so we had to push back a night. But I hope everybody is still going to tune in or catch it afterwards on YouTube and all the social media pages you can find us. Of course, my name is Danny Kuhn, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host Jacob Berkemeier, and we are into the thick of it now. Jacob, we're into playoff football. Got it's some pretty what the word I'm looking for is pretty obvious matchup, pretty obvious winners in the first round, but some intriguing and exciting stuff for the second round and going forward. And we're gonna break it down for you. We're not going to just go game by game or pick out certain games to talk about like we would normally do so. But we are going to talk about, each kind of individual matchup and the bracket itself and cover that. So I will let Jacob, because he is the mastermind behind all of the standings and brackets and stuff like that. That's been his forte this year. I'll let him dive right into it.
Yeah, let me get a
start with Division 1.
Yes, we will start with Division 1. Let me just get it presented, and we'll be good to go. But yeah, it's been most of the games were pretty, a lot of them were blowouts, but there were a few games that were good. This is D2. Let me find. D1 is here. Okay, so yeah, we'll start here in D1, and I'll blow it up a little bit so you guys can read. So kind of starting at the top here, you can see Moeller got the win over Sycamore, which we kind of talked about last week. You feel a little bit bad for some of these 16 seed teams. Happy that the seniors get to play, an extra week into the, for their senior season. But good win for Moeller, just taking care of business, getting on to the next week. But as you can see here, the Lakota East and West Claremont game was a little bit closer, but still East handled business, won by 3 touchdowns. And I don't know, do you want to just talk about this matchup a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I was just going to add, my big thing about this is, we've talked a lot about West Claremont this year, and they had a really surprising season. And, really good season by their standards, right? This is maybe the first or second time they'd ever had a winning season in their history. Really, really tough draw, in the playoffs, right? Lakota East was never going to be a favorable matchup, just judging based off of both those teams' track records throughout the season. I thought maybe Bo Rickman, I believe, right? I should have these names down by this point in time, but I'm not good with names, people. But Bo Rickman, I thought his arm would carry West Claremont into this game and keep it a little closer than it was. But I saw it firsthand earlier in the year. That Lakota East defense is definitely not something to, overlook. And they definitely shut down that high-flying West Claremont offense. If you're West Claremont, it's not – you can look at this and go, that really sucks that we got stuck in this position playing a really talented team at the 8 seed. It's one of the better 8 seeds probably in recent memory, I think.
Yeah.
Really, really talented Lakota East football team. But you can't, you can be disappointed for a few days, but you had a great season. Came up a little short in the playoffs, but I mean, all in all, a banner season for West Claremont that they can build off of, going into next year, into the offseason and into the next season. And we'll talk about the second round games in a few minutes, but it obviously sets up a very intriguing matchup next week or this weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for, like you said, with West Claremont too, they're more of a run heavy team. So, just we didn't watch games this weekend, but I think just looking at that score, you can kind of tell a little bit. The East passing attack, I'm sure, was going as well. And Jameson Kitna, that's just a tough offense to run into and play, like you said. And I mean, they haven't been in school for very long. So I think you also have to know that you have to beat good teams if you want to make a playoff run too. So it's like losing to a really good football team isn't something to be down on yourself about. And if you're East, I mean, you get a chance to take on the number one team in the city all year. I mean, in the state, pretty much.
Yeah, the
Next
top
week,
dog.
and you get to, you're going in underdogs with nothing to lose. You got to hope that they, hang tough and give Moeller a good fight. But
You're right,
yeah,
Jacob. West Claremont was a run heavy offense. I don't know. It's been a long weekend. Apparently, I was in my head that they were a pass heavy offense team, but you're right. They were a run heavy team. But that still doesn't change my point. I mean,
mm-hmm.
not an easy matchup to have. I'll end it on this. If you're West Claremont, you can go back and be like, oh, well, we should have won X game and we wouldn't have had that seed. It's just the way it works, right? I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of. A great year that they can build a lot of momentum off of.
For sure. But yeah, with all that being said, we'll move on to the next slate of games here. So, as you can see, Princeton gets a dominating win over Fairfield. Not much to talk about there. Princeton taking care of business. And then the same with Hamilton and Oak Hills. Hamilton shutting out Oak Hills 28-0. And that leads us to this matchup being a very good one this week. I will actually be going to this game on Friday. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't seen either of these teams play yet. You watched Princeton play earlier in the year, right?
Yeah, and that was the game they played against East, and their offense struggled that night. So I'm curious to see how they handle the Hamilton defense, because when they've been put in big positions, I feel like Princeton has struggled a little bit, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, this I really wanted to go to this game as well because earlier in the season, Princeton lost to Hamilton 34-0, and then Princeton also, I think, didn't they beat West in week 2 of the season, right?
I believe so. Yeah, that was West's only loss of the year.
Right. So, like, Princeton has the ability. Like, I'm just very curious if Princeton's going to come out and, kind of get some revenge for, the 34-0 loss earlier in the year, or if Hamilton's kind of able to repeat what they were able to do earlier in the season. So I think that's going to be a really exciting matchup. Like I said, I'm really excited to see what that holds, who's going to come out on top in that one. Good old fashioned GMC matchup. So, I love those, but
well, you're very true. You're very right, Jacob. I mean, I didn't even think about that. The Hamilton that had that big win over Princeton earlier in the year, and we both our eyes kind of open, like, holy cow, Hamilton must be.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton's on an 8-game win streak right now too.
Now it's
so
put
it's
up or shut up time for both these teams, right? Like, either Hamilton's legit or they caught Princeton. I mean, granted, like you said, they've had 5-game 8-win streak or whatever, 8-game, however long it's been. It's been a whale of a good end of their season. But if you're Princeton, you know what I mean? You're going out there and you're like, that was a fluke. You got us on a bad night. We're gonna get revenge. We're gonna take care of business. So yeah, you've got a great game in store ahead for you, Jacob. Jealous you're gonna be there.
Yeah, I hope it'll be a good one. But so from those games, then we go down to this part. So you can see Dakota West put the beat down on Walnut Hills, which Walnut Hills did struggle this year. So no surprise with West, but they play Elder, who Elder picked up a 28-3 win against Mason. So really good win for Elder, especially coming off that kind of emotional and rough loss to LaSalle, where they were right there. Really good bounce back game for them. And, I know we've talked about it before. You don't want to see GCL South teams in the playoffs. If you're West, I think you feel good going into this game, but you can't overlook your opponent either. Elder is going to play you tough. That the defense is going to come ready to play. So I just, I think West should be able to win this game, but I would not be surprised if Elder puts up a pretty good fight in this matchup.
Yeah, like I've said all year, you don't sleep on those GCL South teams because you never know, right? But, no, like you said, big win for Elder. I thought that game was going to be a little closer than it was.
Same. Yeah.
And so, like you said, coming off of a tough loss to a conference rival really just wasn't their year in the GCL South this year. But come out, take care of business against a formidable opponent in Mason quite handily.
Mm-hmm.
That builds some confidence and momentum. So, should be a good one down between out West and Elder.
Yeah. And then the bottom part, which this has potential to this could be the game of the week, I think. You see Winton Woods taking care of business against Little Miami 35-0. And then St. X 41-0 over Milford. So now you have a matchup. Winton Woods, first year being in Division I. This is what you sign up for. You're playing X in round 2. You better get ready. So Winton Woods, both these teams have had fantastic seasons. I mean, X always plays such a challenging schedule throughout the year. Winton Woods, one loss to Anderson this year. So it's going to be a good one. I really have no idea which way to lean for this one. I have no idea.
I would say that I've seen both these teams play in person this year. And I'll say this, Winton Woods, obviously, I think they ended up with 2 losses. Maybe they just lost to Anderson. Yeah, they just lost to Anderson. I'm right. That's right. They lost to Anderson. No shame in that this year. And then St. X has been kind of an interesting, beast this year. They've played some really good football, and then they've played some rough football. But they're still St. X. They still got the juice, right? I mean, that's, it don't matter who you are. You don't want to see the boys in the long blue line show up on playoff Friday night. And like you said, if you're Winton Woods, this is what you signed up for. Like, this is what you wanted, and you got it. And I would give X the slight edge in this only because of experience. I think that there's a very large gap in terms of jumping from D2 to D1. It doesn't sound like it's a lot, but there is a big difference, and quality of schedule, right? Because you got to think about it. Winton Woods is still playing in a conference that's all D2 schools, right? So they really haven't had –
Milford is the only other one.
That's right. Milford,
who is D1, I believe.
Right. So they're playing a totally different type of schedule. You mentioned it. X plays is one of the hardest. If they ranked SOS in the tri-state for football, St. X and probably Moeller are probably the 2 toughest ones all season, right?
Yeah.
But so I'd give the edge to X, but I will not count out Winton Woods because they have a very, very good offense, and it will be exciting to see. I can't remember Winton Woods' quarterback name. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the quarterback for Winton Woods and Kobe Clapper from St. X kind of go off, head to head. Should be a good matchup.
Yeah, Clapper's really good too. But so that kind of wraps up our Division I portion. And so with that, we'll move on to D2. So as you can see, Anderson just continuing what they've started in the regular season. Move on to 11-0, 78-7 win over Edgewood. I don't think much is going to change in their round 2 matchup versus Butler. Unfortunately for Vandalia Butler, even though they picked up a 31-0 win over Lima. But I think Anderson is going to run this until they meet LaSalle, most likely on the other side of this. Maybe Baden will be able to give them a shot, but Baden's got to get past Mount Healthy down here. So Mount Healthy picks up a win over Aiken, which big win for Mount Healthy. And then Baden picks up a win 14-12 over Trotwood Madison. So what are your thoughts on this?
Trotwood Madison put up a valiant effort against Baden, that's for sure, only losing by 2 points. So nothing you can be ashamed of if you're them. I'm a little surprised. I thought Aiken had a good year this year, and I see they're 12th seed, so maybe it wasn't as good as I was remembering. But, that was not a bad football team by any means.
Mm-hmm.
I had to cover them a few different times, not in person, but, write about them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a decent team this year, so big win for Mount Healthy. If you're Vandalia Butler, try to blitz every play and see if you can get pressure on Justice Burnham. I don't know what the game plan is, because Anderson's just steamrolling everybody in their path.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm not going to count any of these teams out, because you never know, any given Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Something crazy can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But Anderson's got a very favorable schedule to make it to that regional final, and then on to the
I think a lot of every time I look at a team, I'm just like, they don't have the explosiveness to keep up. Yeah, it's
LaSalle. Even LaSalle, it's a struggle, because they've had flashes this year where they've been explosive, but I don't know if it's enough to keep up with Anderson.
LaSalle is going to have to win off their defense and
Mhm.
getting stops, which every
It's
team
proven
this year
difficult.
has really struggled to do that against
Yes.
Anderson. So, I don't know, but like you said, anything can happen on a Friday night,
Right.
but it definitely looks like this top side of the bracket is going to run through Anderson.
It's the buzzsaw, the Raptor
Yeah.
buzzsaw this year on
So,
Forest Drive.
yeah. But yeah, so then moving on, so you see LaSalle here wins 69-21 over Monroe. So LaSalle and Anderson, the 1 and 2 seed, picking up really big wins. And then, look at this little 10-0 here with
Defensive
Kings. Yeah.
struggle.
It's they're few and far between right now in these first rounds. A lot of these first rounds are, either big blowouts or high scoring games. So it's nice to, see a little low scoring, maybe a baseball score, 10-0. But so Kings advances to the next round to play LaSalle. And Kings has some good players. Like Nate Lyman's a good player. I've watched Kings a couple times, and they won both the games that I was at, I believe. So they have a pretty solid team, and I think they'll play LaSalle pretty tough. I still think LaSalle should come out on top, but Kings
Yeah.
is not a team you overlook. They've played good competition this year too. Like they've played Winton Woods, they played Anderson, they've played West Claremont was solid too. They've played some solid teams. So
Yeah, if you're LaSalle, it's not the most favorable draw. I think Kings will give them some trouble. I was interested in that Kings Withrow matchup. I'm not surprised it was pretty close. Withrow got shut out, but still, a 10-point game,
yeah.
not really a blowout by any means.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, no, that's definitely not the draw. I think LaSalle wanted for their second round matchup, but
Probably not.
I think they should be able to handle business. But I would also be in the boat of not surprised if Kings were to pull off an upset there for sure.
Yeah. And then we don't really cover Xenia or Sydney that much, but Xenia picks up the win. And then if you're from Harrison, you got to be pretty happy with the Wildcats this year. They 43-7 win over Troy, and they're playing Xenia. And if you're Harrison, you just got to keep it rolling. They've been doing a great job all year, and they might not have the highest, the strength of schedule that some of these other teams play, but all you can do is take care of business and with the opponent in front of you. So, if you're Harrison, you're looking at a chance if you win this game to, play that winner of LaSalle and Kings, which, I don't know when the last time Harrison's kind of made some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Harrison's had a very, surprising that they're only the 6th seed, right? They've had a pretty good year this year. I will say I covered Xenia once, and they've got a pretty darn good offensive attack. So not an easy matchup for Harrison, but it should be a good one. Xenia was kind of my sleeper pick to come out of this side of the bracket and play Anderson, but also too, Harrison's not a bad pick either.
Yeah. And and this is the cool part. Round one, it's kind of you see what everybody's doing. You kind of see some of the scores and everything, but this is where you're really going to see, I think, some of those upsets and where matchups come into play big time. Where the talent levels might be a little bit closer, and then it's going to come down to coaching and just what schemes end up winning out, because you have run heavy teams and you have some pass heavy teams. But so with all that being said, we'll move on to D3, which D3 does not feature a lot of Cincinnati teams. So we'll kind of get through this pretty quickly. You can see here Talawanda ended up losing to Tip City. So big win for Tip City.
Tippecanoe has been really, really tough this year. I know, I just from reading their box scores and stuff, very good football team. I know we don't cover them, but they've had a great year.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. A 1 seed. So shout out to Tippecanoe. And then Hamilton Ross, unfortunately, ends up losing to London, which I've never heard of London.
I don't know where it
But
is either.
congratulations to them. But unfortunately, in our tri-state, and then CJ. So CJ had a big win, 44-28 over Bellefontaine. Don't know that school either. But
big
so
win.
we're rooting for CJ to come out of this side of the bracket, because that's the only team we've kind of covered from this side of the bracket that's made it through. So we're pulling for you, CJ. Good luck this week. And then down here, we talked about Batavia early in the year with that crazy score. But how about, I think if I remember correctly, Wilmington's on the other side, because their like conference is split half and half, right?
Yes.
I think Wilmington's on the other side of that conference. And
Batavia had beaten Wilmington earlier in the year.
really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that makes it even more interesting. Yeah. So Wilmington getting some revenge, winning 37-34 over Batavia. And do you know anything about Wapakoneta?
No, but I know early on in the year I was like, "Don't sleep on those Franklin boys," and you can sleep on them now.
It's the confidence that's what they'll remember, is the confidence you had.
Yes.
So definitely, and then pulling for Wilmington down here, and then McNick. If I don't know if our listeners remember, I had talked about Baden has won the GCL co-ed. I think this year marked their 5th or 6th year in a row, because they ended up beating McNick last game of the year, or like second to last game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But really nice to see McNick pick up a 35-3 win, because I do think the season that they've had has been a really good season, and they have a chance to make some legit noise in these D3 playoffs. So I hope that they can continue to make a run and kind of, avenge their loss against Baden from earlier in the year. But
the thing about it is, and I'll touch on it really quick, is McNick went into that. It was the last game of the season for the conference title, and they lost their starting quarterback, and they have to go into that game against Baden and throw their backup in. And it didn't, it wasn't by any means a blowout. It was a low scoring affair. But now their backup quarterback's got a little bit of playing time under his belt. You know what I mean? He's getting comfortable in that offense. Yeah. And if he's talented, there could be a sleeper agent there in the D3 bracket.
For sure. But with all that being said, that also concludes the D3. So now we'll move into the most fun bracket, in my opinion, and the craziest one, the Division 4, which, so you can see, I mean, we talked about this last week, just how crazy it was that Roger Bacon was, I believe, 5-5 this year, and they were the 16 seed, which, that's just crazy. But Clinton Massey, they had a great season this year, and they're 41. They won 41-7 over Roger Bacon, so they'll take on Indian Hill, who also had an amazing year and nearly got the Cincinnati Hills League title, but that still went to Wyoming, who is on the bottom of this bracket. But so Indian Hill beats Northridge, and you get a great matchup with Indian Hill and Clint Massey. So what are your thoughts on that?
Stack the box if you're Indian Hill. all 11 of your guys in the box, like you're all selling out to stop the run. Because I don't know if Clinton Massey passes a football, if they can pass the football.
Yeah.
So sell out, stop the run. Maybe they can do it. I mean, they've had a
Yeah.
great year.
You heard it here first. Expert scout Daniel Kuhn. 11
John
in the
Rodenberg
box.
is the coach at Indian Hill. If you found out it was me who was trying to give him advice, he certainly would probably do the exact opposite. My old coach at Big Mo. But but yeah, I mean, got to stop the run. Got to find a way to at least limit it, right? Stifle it a little bit. They're gonna rack up yards just based off of sheer volume of carries. But the big thing is, right, if you can slow it down, you're gonna chew up some. They're gonna take away some of that, that play clock time that they have the football. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to be one of the keys to beat Clinton Massey is to
Mm-hmm.
control the time of possession and keep the ball away from them, right? So Indian Hill's got to run the ball good too. So
yeah, and we've talked about that, throughout. I know that's been something that I've at least said, as the weeks kind of kept going on. It's like these teams that are run heavy, it does work well as you get into the playoffs when you start controlling that time of possession. You can get up a couple scores, and then you can just lean on your run game and keep leaning on it. It's like it just wears the defense down, and then it's like every time that offense goes back on the field for the other team, they feel the pressure on them. Like, we have to score now because we might not get the ball back, or. So having a great run game, it's what's helped Clinton Massey all year. And if you're Clinton Massey, you're not turning away from it anytime soon. You're just going to keep pounding the rock.
Yep.
But and then so thriller, probably game of the week from last week. Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy unfortunately loses in an overtime game to Brookville, 43-42. So congratulations to Brookville getting the upset as the 13 seed. So there's your bracket buster for the week. But I think, Cincinnati Christian Academy, I think they had a good season. But you're in a game like that. I'm almost wondering if they lost on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game.
Says they went into overtime. I don't know. It's an unfortunate, fortunate way to lose, but same time, you had a great year. You lost by a point in overtime. You take it for what it is.
You just got to tip your cap to the other team and
regroup and come back next year stronger.
Mm-hmm. And then Taft down here putting the beat down on Springfield Kenton Ridge, 50-7. So really good win for Taft. And if you're Taft, you're probably, I don't know, because it looks like Brookville hung pretty tough, and they obviously beat CHCA. So I mean, might not be an easy matchup, but if you're Taft, you might be a little bit happy that that's your matchup instead of CHCA. But if you're Taft, you just got to do what you did last week and keep that rolling.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so, and then moving down a little bit further, see Wyoming here. So Wyoming went undefeated this year and only got the 2 seed in this. I think Clinton Massey was 9-1 and still got the 1 seed over Wyoming. So I guess that has to do with strength of schedule, but
I don't know how they formulate that, but I bet you they were like, you know what, Clinton Massey, we're going to give you the 1 seed just because that running game's so incredible. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Wyoming as a 2 seed's crazy. They've got to be feeling good about, their spot and they're sitting here because, I mean, Alter might be a difficult match. I mean, it's not an easy matchup by any means. Alter is usually pretty tough. Yeah. But it's, I mean, to be honest with you, they are probably like, we're the 2 seed. Okay. like, we probably
maybe got a chip on their shoulder now, I think.
Right. Like they didn't get the 8-9 matchup. They got the 7-10, right? So, so they could have been beneficial for them.
I mean, I think Wyoming's, they're similar to like how you were talking with St. X. They just have so much experience when it comes to these deep playoff runs. It's every other year or every year they're making a deep run. So I think they know what this means and what it takes to kind of go far. So I think if you're Alter, you just have to try to slow down the offense. If Alter can play a similar pace game to what they did against Eaton, where it's 14-0, or obviously they're not going to shut. I don't think they'll shut out Wyoming, but
keep them low scoring.
yeah, if you can keep it, I think if you can keep Wyoming around 21 points or less, you're going to give yourself a fighting chance. But so be curious to see if Alter can, hang tough and maybe slow down that Wyoming offense a little bit. But moving down, New Richmond unfortunately loses to the 3 seed Germantown Valley View, which I have not heard of before. But Taylor, we have heard of, and we've talked about plenty. Coach Dransman led them to get their first home playoff game in a very long time. I'm not sure if they've done it before, if this was their first time, but it's nice to see Taylor win 43-6 against Urbana. And I think if you're Taylor too, you probably are feeling pretty good about this matchup that you're getting. Taylor's played Wyoming, who is it? Indian Hill. That Cincinnati Hills League's decently tough. So they've played a lot of good competition. I think if you're Taylor, you're feeling pretty good walking into this game. And, you got to hope that they can, get a win here and, see what happens. Because then you get a rematch. If Wyoming and Taylor win, then you're rematching from, I think it was like week 5 in the season. And I'm pretty sure Taylor only lost by about a touchdown to Wyoming earlier in the year. So you're going to get some pretty good matchups, I think, as this kind of goes forward. But I'll be curious if there's any upsets. The first round was pretty mild with it. There was only a couple, but
more than there was in Division 1.
Yeah.
But I'll end it with this. I feel like every time I see that 3-6, that's just a tough matchup for the 3 seed, just because it feels like every 6 seed in every bracket we've talked about has been a really good football team.
Yeah, McNick at the 6 and D3, Harrison at the 6 and D2, and St. X at the 6 and D1. So
tough.
Definitely, you were not lying about that. So
tough seed to draw if you're the 3 seed this year.
So keep that in mind, coaches, for next year. Maybe you want to try to avoid that 3 seed at all costs.
Maybe play one bad team to just lower that strength of schedule just a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it to end it up. I mean, wrap it up because I know we're trying to get it out of here before 7 o'clock. To wrap it up, I mean, the Tri-State football or the Ohio State football playoffs always is great. It's just phenomenal, action and competition, and this year's no different. I think that we're going to see some really good football here towards the end when we get down to things, towards those regional finals. I think that the 1 seeds in their respective conferences are going to be feeling pretty good about their chances. But like I said, you never know. I mean, every Friday night brings something different, right? One team could just have an off night, one team could have an on night, and the next thing you know, we're sitting around like, what the heck? Anderson's just got bounced, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's just that you always have to be on the edge of your seat. It's exciting stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking about it here till the end.
Yeah, absolutely. We got 4 more, or I guess after this week we'll only have 3 weeks left.
3 weeks, and then I mean, is the state finals in 3 weeks? Really, is that as long as not that far away, or is it?
Well, so let's see so we have this week, next week. I would guess. I don't know. Is there 16 weeks now?
I don't know. Although I don't know
how the new playoff system always messes me up a little bit because it used to just be 5 weeks of playoffs.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
When we were in high school, but
well, either way, we'll be here till the end, right?
Yes, we will. As long as there are teams from the tri-state area, making a run in the playoffs, we will be here. So
honest, I just thought of something for the last week of the show, the last show of the year. I might go back before and look through all of our old shows and see if I can't see what the coldest takes were.
Oh, we might be in trouble. We might be in trouble if you do that, dude.
I probably have a few in there.
Oh, I definitely do.
Ice cold picks.
Yeah, dude. I definitely have some.
That's good. Well, all right. Is that everything you got, Jacob?
Yeah, I think we're all ready to wrap up here. So I'll stop sharing my screen, bring us back big to say goodbye. But
yeah, well, we will see everybody on should be Monday night next week.
Yeah, we'll be back on the Monday night.
Regular programming. So if any, we can't wait to see everybody again. We hope everybody has a great rest of their week. And here's to some good high school playoff football action.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Yep.